Hello class, and welcome to week 3. This week we'll be working in our first chapter in Excel. I'm going to demo how to get started in your textbook. If you go to page 349, we'll be covering Objective 1 and getting into Objective 2 as well. So this first page will show you what, when you go through all these objectives for this particular item, what your final project will look like, as well as indicate the files that you'll be saving them as here. So with that being said, let's go to the next page. So you should effectively be starting here. We are on page 351. So to get started, the first thing we're going to do is step 1. We're going to go ahead and start our Excel program. And once in Excel, go ahead and click Blank Workbook. In the lower right corner of the window, notice you have this button, the Normal button. We're going to just double check that. And that's right here, and it is set to normal by default. And then your zoom level also can be found down there. We generally want it at 100% to start, which is where it defaults to, and you can use this slider to move that. So moving on to step 2, on the ribbon we're going to click the File tab, and we're going to do a Save As. And like we did with Word, we're going to save it in a specific format. So you can go ahead and create an Excel Chapter 1 folder or something similar. Just note where you're saving your files so that you can find them later. So let's go do that. File, Save As, and then I'm going to browse. And we will place this here. And so we're going to call this last name, well, in this case, again. And they want us to call it 1A quarterly sales. Okay. Now that you've saved your file, you can go ahead and compare your screen to figure 1.2. This is just going to take a minute to review this, and you can look, and these are the different components of the Excel workbook. So your screen should look like this essentially with a blank workbook. Once you've done that, go ahead and proceed to the next page. In step 7, just pointing out a couple things here. In the lower right corner of the screen in the horizontal scroll bar, you're going to click the right scroll arrow one time to shift column A out of view. So if you're here and you click the scroll bar button at the bottom corner, you'll see that row 1 is now out of view. And now that we've done that, now we're going to point to the right scroll arrow and kind of go down, see what happens when we scroll to the right. So down here at the bottom, if you just hold that down, you see how we get all these double column headings, and it just continues on like that as we go further and further to the right. Go ahead and step through these next few steps, step 9, 10. You can kind of experiment to see how when you scroll in different ways, how that impacts the thing, and look for the screen tips, etc. And then when you're done with that, you can go ahead and save if you'd like once again. And then we're going to move into Objective 2. Before we do that, let's go back here and let's scroll all the way back to the left. We can also scroll all the way back up as well. This will show us, so we're in A1. So in step 1 of Objective 2, we're going to go ahead and click at the intersection of column A and row 1, which we've already done. This is cell A1. In step 2, with cell A1 as the active cell, we're going to type the worksheet title, Profit Marietta, and press Enter. So let's do that. Okay. And your screen should look like this here. In step 3, it points out that you probably notice that the text does not fit in the cell. It actually extends into cell B1 to the right, and you can see it goes over. Go ahead and look at step 4. In cell A2, we're going to type the worksheet title, second quarter cardio sales. So right here, press enter. The importance on the width we'll find out later in terms of how we can adjust that, but for now it's just pointing that out to you. Go ahead to the next page. On step 5, above column A, we're going to click in the name box to select the cell reference A3. So go ahead and right here, this is the name box, so you see it's selecting cell A3. So we actually want to type A4 and press enter, and you'll note that the cell is now A4 down here. So that's a quick way to go from one place to the other. So now that A4 is the active cell, we're going to type exercise bikes and press enter. Now that we're on to step 6, we're in cell A5, we're going to type E, capital E, and you're going to notice a text from previous cells display. This is called autocomplete. And then we're going to type the remainder of the row title. We want it to say elliptical machines. But you'll see when I just type E, it starts to fill in with exercise bikes, but we don't want that. So we're gonna actually type in the rest of this. Oops. Okay, press enter. And so the autocomplete goes away once you get beyond the characters that match. So in cell A6, we're going to type treadmill and press treadmills and press enter. In cell A7, we're going to type rowing machines and press enter. And in cell 8, we're going to type total and press enter. And then go ahead and save your file. Now down here in activity 1.03, we're going to go ahead and click cell B3. And you're going to type A, and you're going to notice in the formula bar the cancel and enter buttons become active. So let's go ahead and do that. Capital A, and right here is where they're referring to. So keep that in mind for something that's coming up. Let's go to the next page. In step 2, you're going to continue to type. We want to finish. We want to have the word April. And then we're going to notice in the formula bar, you'll notice that what you're typing also shows up there. So go ahead here, keep typing April. You'll see it up here. And what they want you to do this time is instead of pressing enter, go ahead and click this check, which is also enter. The difference being is it doesn't move down. It actually keeps this the active cell. So anytime you want to stay in that active cell after you type, you can use that feature. So in step 3, with cell B3 active, locate the small square in the lower right corner of the selected cell. This is called a fill handle. So we're going to point to the fill handle until the plus sign displays, and then while holding down the left mouse button, we're going to drag to the right to cell D3. So right here, you see this corner box. Hold your mouse button down, scroll to the right to D3, and if you notice the screen tips underneath, see how this says May underneath, and then when I go here, June. So it uses the logic to understand what you probably want to do there, and that's what that autofill handle can be pretty handy for. So in step 5, under the text that we just filled, we're going to click the autofill options button and compare our screen to figure 1.9. So that's this button here. This just gives you different options. So in this particular case, it did fill series, but maybe you just want to fill the formatting or fill without formatting, etc. This gives you some options on how to do it. So you can just click it again to cancel that. Now, in step 7, we're going to press Control Home. So press those 2 keys, and you'll notice this brings you back to A1. That's always the way back to get to your starting point. In step 8, we're once again going to save it. And then go ahead and you can review what yours looks like again, comparing it to figure 1.10, which is on the next page. Figure 1.10, which actually gives you a list of commands in Excel and keyboard commands for ways to navigate around. So what you're going to do from here, now that you've gotten started, is go ahead and continue, starting with activity 1.04 here on page 357. This is where you're going to do some adjustments to columns. As you advance through, you'll also start adding some content to this cell, and eventually you'll work to that document that you saw at the beginning. But this should be enough to get you started, kind of get a general understanding of how the program works and what the layout looks like. So go ahead and give that a shot, and good luck.